Hello everyone. This lesson we're going to talk about how to make connections for dual winding three-phase transformer bank. So I made some rule down here. I want you to take a look first. Then I will upload this one on the D2L. So if you didn't catch this one on the screen, you can check for this document on the D2L. When connecting dual winding three-phase transformer, because in three-phase we have a Y connection, we have a delta connection, and because it's dual winding, we can connect them in parallel or in series. So the connection becomes much more complicated than the single phase. So here's some easy step. I give you an example. I give you a single phase transformer for each of them inside the three-phase bank. It's rated for 300 volt, 600 volt. And the low voltage winding will be 100 volt, 20 volt, 240 volt. So first, you're going to compare the primary supply line voltage to the single phase transformer's high voltage winding voltage. So in here, I'm talking about, I said it's a step down operation. If it's a step up, you're just going to compare to the low voltage winding here. First, you're going to say, if the primary supply voltage going to equal to any of these, the high voltage winding. This one, the 300 volt, I will call the per winding rating. 600 volt will be the both winding connecting in series. So that's called both winding rating. If the supply voltage equal to per winding voltage, 300 volts, you just connect the primary in parallel delta. So if your supply voltage is 300 volt, you connect the primary in parallel delta. If the supply voltage equal to higher both winding voltage 600 volt, then you're just going to connect the primary in parallel delta. If your supply voltage is not equal to any of those two numbers, you're going to go to second step. So the second step will be, you're going to compare that voltage, supply voltage to see if it's higher than 300 volts or lower than 600 volts or higher than 600 volts. If the supply voltage is higher than 300 volts, let's say the sample will be 520 volts. So 520 volt will now equal to 300 volt, will now equal to 600 volt. But it's higher than 300, but lower than 600. So you're going to check if you root 3 times 300, going to give you this 520. Yes, root 3 times 300 give you 520. You're going to connect your primary in parallel Y. Otherwise, if your supply voltage is 1039 volts, which is higher than 600, but equal to root 3 times 600, then you're going to connect your primary in series Y. We did this for primary side. Repeat the same step to do for the secondary side. So now I'm going to do some sample on the board. We're going to go through that. The first example is our supply is 480 volts. The load requires 120 volts. They're both three-phase. The transformer is rated for 240 volt, 480 volts on the high voltage side, 120, 240 on the low voltage side. Because the supply 480 volts is equal to the both winding voltage, 480 volts down here, so I know the primary is going to connect in series delta. Secondary side, the load requires 120 volts. 120 volt is equal to per winding voltage down here, 120 volt. So I know my secondary side is going to connect in parallel delta. Second example, my supply is a 49.88 kilovolts. Load requires 208 volts. The transformer is 14.4 kV and 28.8 kV. And the low voltage side 120, 240. This 14.99 kV it's not equal to any of those numbers. So I know it's not going to be delta. Now I'm going to check if this voltage 14.99 higher than both of them. Yes, it's higher than 28.8. Then I'm going to check 14.88 is that equal to root 3 times 28.8. Yes, it's equal to that. So I know the primary side is going to connect in series Y. Secondary side, 208 volts. The 208 volts is now equal to 120. Also, it's now equal to 240. So I know it's not going to be delta. Now, this 208 is higher than 120, but lower than 240. So all I have to check is 120 times root 3, is that equal to 208? Yes, that equal to 208. Now I know the secondary side is connecting parallel Y. Third example, supply 2400 volts, load 480 volts. My transformer is rated for 3085 and 2770. Low voltage side 240, 480. Primary side 2400, higher than 1385, but lower than 2770. So the number is between here. So I do root 3 times 1385 equal to 2400 volts. I now going to connect my primary side parallel Y. Secondary side 480 volts equal to both winding voltage 480 volts. So I'm going to connect secondary side series delta. Last example, 2400 volt supply, 240 volt load requirement. Transformer 2400, 4800, low voltage side 139, 277. Primary side 2400 volts equal to this 2400 volts. So I know it's going to be delta equal to per winding voltage. So I know it's parallel delta. Secondary side 240 is now equal to 139, also don't equal to 277. So it's not going to be delta, but the 240 larger than 139, smaller than 277. So I check 139 times root 3 equal to 240. So I know the secondary is going to be connecting parallel Y. So those are examples I'm walking you through, and with those rules I gave to you, or the steps, you can working them out through those dual winding 3-phase transformer bank. If you have any question, you can contact us online or send us an email.